let's jump right into today's explainer, where we're unpacking a deeply moving story that perfectly captures the complex relationship between human compassion, social cruelty, and the absolutely incredible ways destiny can reward us. We're looking at a classic moral tale centered around a poor laborer named Dheeru. His extraordinary journey through a literal and metaphorical storm teaches us something profound about what wealth actually means.
So, what actually happens when a person who's been completely rejected by society, someone who honestly has every reason to be bitter and selfish, chooses to risk it all to help a total stranger? It's a compelling question, right? Well, to answer it, we have to plunge headfirst into the stormy world of our protagonist, Dheeru, and see how one single act of empathy set off a chain reaction that completely altered his fate. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The Unrelenting Rain, a week-long storm.
Our story opens not with a sunny, idyllic village scene, but with a suffocating, week-long torrential storm. And for daily wage earners like Dheeru and his wife Kajari, this rapid escalation of misery literally means starvation. On day 1, they're trapped at home, helplessly watching their meager vegetable supply rot. By day 2, out of sheer desperation, Dheeru braves the storm to work, only to come home with his wages completely soaked by the rain. And then comes the final, crushing blow on day 3. Their roof leaks directly onto those drawing paper notes, completely destroying his hard-earned money. They are physically exhausted and totally financially ruined.
Now, this external storm they're battling, it's actually a perfect mirror of Dheeru's social reality. Think about it. He's an orphan, incredibly kind and hardworking, yet he's despised by the very community he lives in. The villagers are secure in their dry homes and big families, but they're incredibly cruel and judgmental towards him, simply because he doesn't have any family lineage to boast of. It's a really harsh reality.
In fact, his coworkers hurl these heartbreaking insults at him, saying things like, "You are a jinx. That's why you have no relatives, no family, no one of your own." Just because he's an orphan, they completely ostracize him. They don't look at him and see a hardworking man just trying to survive. They see a bad omen. And this really highlights the immense emotional weight Dheeru carries every single day. He's entirely friendless, isolated in a crowd, and dragging around this heavy label of being an outcast.
Section 2. Kindness in the Storm, a chance encounter.
But here is where the narrative pivots from the despair of isolation to the warmth of human connection. On his way home from a grueling, honestly humiliating day at work, Dheeru spots a couple, Raman and Janki, huddled under a tree, completely stranded in this fierce storm. Now keep in mind, Dheeru has just lost all his money. His roof is leaking. He has every excuse in the world to just keep his head down and keep walking. Instead, he chooses compassion over self-preservation. He approaches them, finds out they have nowhere to stay, and immediately invites these total strangers into his own leaking, impoverished home.
And when Dheeru brings them home, you'd think his wife Kajari might complain about the lack of space or money. But no, her face absolutely lights up. She simply says, "Guests are a form of God." This beautifully reflects the deep-rooted cultural belief of Atiti Devo Bhava. Despite their crushing poverty, she joyfully prepares a modest but incredibly loving feast for Raman and Janki. It really anchors Dheeru and Kajari's absolute moral purity. I mean, they give everything they have simply because it's the right thing to do.
Section 3. The Thakur's Cruel Demand, Extortion.
But, as we all know, the universe has a funny way of testing our resolve, doesn't it? Things at work deteriorate rapidly. Because Dheeru gave his dry clothes and warm space to his guests, he ends up catching a terrible fever. But he still goes to work at the warehouse of the local wealthy landlord, Thakur Durjan Pratap. There he endures vicious taunts from co-workers, mocking him for pretending to have guests. And then, disaster strikes. Dizzy from the fever and sheer weakness, Dheeru slips. A sack of the Thakur's grain falls from his hands straight into the floodwaters and is utterly ruined.
And what is the Thakur's response to this genuine accident by a sick man? 3. The Thakur demands a staggering 3 sacks of grain as compensation for the single ruined one. Let's be real here, it is pure, unadulterated extortion. When Dheeru practically begs for mercy, explaining that he could work a whole month and still not afford 3 sacks, the Thakur fires him on the spot. He banishes Dheeru, telling him never to return until he has the money. Dheeru hits absolute rock bottom. He stumbles home completely broken and just breaks down in front of Kajari. I mean, he has no job, his money was destroyed by the rain, and now he has this impossible, unjust penalty hanging right over his head.
Section 4. The Secret of the Guests. Massive plot twist.
It really feels like the end of the line for our protagonist, but this is exactly where the story takes a fascinating turn. The guests Dheeru saved happen to overhear his tragic situation from the very next room, and get ready for a massive plot twist. Raman and Janki aren't helpless wanderers at all. They are actually incredibly wealthy merchants from the city. So you're probably wondering, why did they hide it? Well, they reveal to each other that while they have all the money in the world, they're kind of emotionally bankrupt. They lack genuine friends or family. They intentionally hid their wealth because they were terrified that if Dheeru and Kajari knew they were rich, they would treat them differently, or maybe act out of greed rather than genuine kindness.
But hearing Dheeru's devastation, they know they have to step in. Raman and Janki walk into the room, reveal their true identities, and hand Dheeru a massive stack of cash. The relief in the narrative here is just palpable. They empower Dheeru to march right back to that cruel Thakur, throw the cash back in his face to clear the impossible debt, and walk out of that toxic warehouse forever with his head held high.
Section 5. A miraculous reunion, triumph, and discovery.
So Dheeru is finally free from his debt, but the rewards of his good karma, they're really only just beginning. First, Raman, who happens to need a trustworthy partner, offers Dheeru a highly lucrative business partnership in the city. Overjoyed by this news, Kajari brings out a brand new kurta for Dheeru to wear for his journey. But as Dheeru changes his shirt, Raman suddenly freezes. He spots a very specific, unique birthmark on Dheeru's knife.
Raman is absolutely stunned. He reveals that he actually has the exact same birthmark. Memories flood back of his mother telling him about a brother who was lost many years ago. The emotional climax hits with full force, as Raman looks at him and says, "You are my brother." The kind stranger who risked everything to save him wasn't a stranger at all. He was his own flesh and blood. No way, right? It's like a giant puzzle finally snapping into place.
Dheeru's selfless act, choosing to treat guests like God when he had literally nothing to his name, not only saved him from a lifetime of poverty, but it cured the deepest loneliness of both brothers. The villagers constantly called Dheeru an orphan and a jinx, but his unconditional kindness proved to be the ultimate wealth, completely rewriting his destiny.
It leaves us with a pretty powerful reflection. Dheeru survived his storm because of the seeds of kindness he planted when he was at his absolute lowest. So, you have to ask yourself, if the storm of your life hits tomorrow, what kind of karma are you building today to weather it? That's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us for today's Explainer, and we look forward to bringing you more incredible stories soon.